post-board, which we'll get to after game one, Nick gets access to a lot more cards that slow down Cedric's early game and also ensures that Master Waves will be triggering for a lot of elementals. Game one is very different because it's hard for Nick to build up much of a board, but games 2 and 3, he becomes a much more effective Master Waves deck in the matchup.
All right, well, as the 3 seed, Nick Peternell is going to get to be on the play here as he faces off against Cedric Phillips. Both players have already completed their mulligans as we get ready for the match here. Cedric, 8 consecutive wins to get into the top 8. Had a really good run, undefeated today.
And as I came over to the feature match area to check out the action, Cedric was requesting the Oracle text and a couple cards in Nick's deck.
Yeah, so I mean, so Nick's deck actually very in on the, it's all 4 ofs. Cards like Shore Crasher Elemental, Silumgar Sorcerer, Hypnotic Siren, Stratus Dancer, and Collected Company all in his main deck.
And Cedric did not off the top of his head know what Shore Crasher Elemental or Silumgar Sorcerer did. So needed to check that before the match gets started.
All right, well, underway. A Temple starts the game for Nick, whereas for Cedric, it's Zergo Bellstriker.
And I can't overstate how good Master of Waves is against Cedric's deck. Now, game one, Nick's got a lot of 1/1s for 1 and creatures that are pretty easy to kill. It's hard for him to get much of a board with that stuff, but if he's able to curve into Master of Waves with any sort of board presence, it's hard for Cedric to win.
Looks like he may do just that. Turn 2 plays Kiora's Follower, so this Master Waves you see hanging out in his hand could happen as early as turn 3 on the play. That's going to be really difficult, I think, for Cedric.
Exactly. So I think that Cedric, if he can kill this, it will be well advised to do so.
Will we go back over to Cedric? Right now, 2/2 facing against his opponent's 2/2 has the 1 Forest in his hand.
The 1 Forest is a stinker. A necessary evil, but not a land you want on the second turn.
And the Bellstriker will swing in. He'll offer the trade with Kiora's Follower. With Master Waves in hand, I can't imagine Nick's accepting. And indeed, he is not. He's going down to 18. And Wild Slash post-combat will take care of Kiora's Follower. That will keep Nick off Master Waves for another turn, but at the cost of Cedric's whole turn, that's got to still be a good sign for the Devotion player.
As long as Nick is able to get to land number 4 with Master Waves, even Master Waves with no other Devotion than Master Waves itself, will be problematic for Cedric to beat if he doesn't have much of a board set up by the time that Nick plays it.
Yep. You look at Nick's hand, Silumgar Sorcerer, Stratus Dancer, Master of Waves, has land number 4, has all the makings of a Master of Waves next turn, has to decide whether he wants to leave up mana just for the Sorcerer or play Stratus Dancer. Sorcerer pretty valuable here just because it's 2 blue mana symbols, I'd think.
If Cedric plays something like Goblin Rabble Master, you may see Nick use it. And if Cedric doesn't play something substantial, even if he plays a creature, Nick might say, okay, that's fine, resolves. End of turn, play this, untap Master Waves for a bunch.
Bellstriker puts Peternell down to 16. Cedric has a 3rd land, but it's another Mana Confluence. And he's going to need some pressure because Nick's turn is going to be good here. Mana Confluence tapped. Cedric playing Lightning Berserker post-combat.
That is not good enough to get a response out of Nick here.
And here's Silumgar Sorcerer on end step. Yeah, Cedric, and he's playing around Master Waves as best he can. He's going to Lightning Strike that guy down.
With that said, it's still going to be a hard card to beat. Even if Nick casts it right now, Cedric does not have a lot of workarounds.
Well, what about if he casts it and then casts another one that he just drew?
Yeah, and you can see the Resigned pushing down on the fist there by Cedric. He knows how bad this card is for him.
So here's 1 Master Waves. It's going to bring 1 Elemental with it. Remember, the Master Waves itself has protection from red.
You want to know a fun fact?
Sure.
I've literally never beat this card once. I am 0 for X. X is some large number. I've never beat it once, even from boards like this, where it's cast on an empty board and only generating 1 elemental.
It's going to be all sorts of difficult for Cedric to get by it.
Nick's had a healthy 16 life, another Master Waves in hand. Cedric, at this point, basically needs some mixture of Hordeling Outbursts, Dragon Fodders, and a Tarkus command to go around everything. But his individual threats are worth very little.
Yeah, and with that second Master Waves hanging out, that Hordeling Outburst plan may not even be enough.
Yeah. Beating 1 Master Waves would be hard enough. I think the second one may just be impossible.
Cedric plays a land, passes the turn. And we'll see for Nick, he's going to cast Stratus Dancer. Oh, wow. Cast, well, 1 Stratus Dancer, and he's setting up for a big Master Waves. Looks like he's, rather than just making the second one, he's going to go for a pair of Stratus Dancers.
Yeah, this is pretty aggressive from Nick here. I mean, he had the option of just playing Stratus Dancer face down, locking out some potential spells from Cedric, but it looks like he's going for the whole thing here. trying to load up the board, so the second Master Waves is just a game over effect.
So 2-2-1 flyers into play for Nick. No counter spells there. And Stratus Dancer actually, to be honest, decent against Tatarka Red. It counters instants and sorceries.
And there's plenty of those in Cedric's deck. Also, he can't really block in the air, so in spots like this, they can get the offensive while Master of Waves is locking down the ground.
So if you're Cedric, how concerned are you? I mean, Nick didn't morph a Stratus Dancer on a board where morphing Stratus Dancer was a really good play. I would think in Cedric's spot, the only way this line from Nick makes sense is if his last card's another Master of Waves. And if that's happening, oh, goodness.
Yeah, there's not a lot to be done about it.
Cedric's going to stoke the flames at Nick. Goes to 12. Draws for turn. Plays land number 5, says go. And Nick draws for the turn, and he gets to untap with all these blue mana symbols. Here comes the second 2-1. It is another Master of Waves. This one with Devotion of 4. It's going to create 4 more elementals. Now they're all 3/2s thanks to the second Master of Waves.
Remember, Cedric cannot kill these Master Waves. This is just in, so they could be very aggressive going on the offensive here if he wants to.
Yeah, he'll swing everything. The 2/2-1 flyers, 3/2 elemental, a 2/1 protection from red, none of them getting blocked.
This is the game that Cedric, I felt, really had a steal in the match because Nick's got a lot of low-impact cards and 4 copies of Master Waves, which are hard for Cedric to beat. Nick's found 2 of his copies of Master Waves. I think that unless Cedric puts together a lot of burn spells all in a row, he's going to get killed here. And then post-board, it gets a lot worse.
Cedric going to play it out. Lightning Berserker is going to try to trade with that 3/2, meaning Cedric will take 6.
Zergo can't even block anything on this board. Everything's too large.
And Lightning Berserker is going to go ahead and stoke the flames at Nick. Not even going to pay a life to Mana Confluence to trade with the Elemental token. He's just trying to get 2 more stokes in. Maybe he can survive a turn. Zergo will swing in. Well, Nick will block with the pro-red creature.
Love the effort there by Cedric trying to play to his outs, but Nick saw the line of block your red creature with my pro-red creature.
Yep. A little smirk on his face. Hey, you
gotta try.
Gotta play.
He's gotta try.
So game 1, solidly in the camp for Nick Peternell. Players will go to game 2. And as you said, things aren't going to get a lot better for Cedric post-board. Before we get there, though, we want to mention we are closing in on our Season 2 Invitational. Remember, all the players from the top 8 here will be qualified for the Season 2 Invitational thanks to the top 8 finish. Now, Cedric's going to be in the booth, so he's not going to be playing for that one. But for Nick Peternell, that means he can be attending the Columbus Game Fair, Origins Game Fair, and the Invitational at the beginning of next month. That's June 3rd through 7th in Columbus.
Yeah, we got 5 days of Magic planned here, including Last Chance Invitational qualifiers Thursday evening before the Invitational, a super game night, the Invitational, a 2-day $20,000 Modern Open Series event, 2 different Premier IQs on Sunday for Standard and Legacy, over $80,000 in cash prizes given out throughout the course of the weekend. And the Origins Game Fair has a lot going on if you want to do things other than Magic. If you're into miniatures games, board games, all sorts of booths are going to be set up here. So head out to Columbus. If you're qualified for the Invitational, great. And if not, there's plenty of opportunities to qualify. And even if you fail to qualify, it won't be a wasted weekend. A lot to do with the Origins Game Fair, both Magic and not Magic related.
Yeah, playing in any SCG event will get you a free 1-day bracelet for the Origins Game Fair. Invitational competitors actually get a free event entry bracelet each day. So if you are qualified, make sure you want to head out there. If not, try to find an IQ near you.
I've played games at the Origins Game Fair. I have attended the show as an exhibitor on the behalf of companies back in the day, and I've enjoyed the experience on both ends. So if you're a gamer, head out to Origins beginning of June.
Yeah. Going to the sideboards, I'm going to start first with Nick Peternell. You talked about how things got bad. Let's talk. Now we'll survey the scene.
So the top of the list there. So DC's Faithful, Wall of Frost, and Encase in Ice give Nick a really good way of shoring up the early game. Sidici's Faithful, just as an 0-4 wall, is very effective at blocking Cedric's early game. Wall of Frost is spectacular and very hard to kill, and the Encase in Ice is more removal. What this also does is ensure that Nick will have a pretty stable board flush with blue mana symbols if he finds Master Wave. So this is a very, very tight package against Cedric.
Yeah, cards like Encase in Ice, Wall of Frost, and DC's Faithful, once they're on the board, it seems unlikely that Cedric will ever remove them, so those blue mana symbols are just going to stack up.
And we saw the trouble that Cedric had beating Master Waves just for 1. If Nick is firing it off for 4 or 5 on the back of some of these cards, it's going to be hard for Cedric to win.
Yeah. Now on Cedric's side, he does have some possibilities to get through these. An extra goblin heel cutter that can swing by some walls, perhaps. He does have copies of Eidolon of the Great Revel, maybe more Rabble Masters because Nick doesn't actually have hard removal. How much of this do you like?
I like the Rabble Masters a lot in this matchup because it's still pretty potent against Sidisi's Faithful, Wall of Frost, and Encase Nice. It's functional against all of Nick's sideboard cards. Nick doesn't really remove it from the table, so I like going up to the playset of Rabble Masters. I think the heel cutter is also okay here. I can see trying to go to the 4 Eidolons and hope that Nick's draw is such that it just is triggering for a lot of damage. And I suppose Hall of Triumph is fine here because Nick's not really contesting the board. Cedric's going to be able to build up.
A lot of decent options for him, but it is still going to be, I would think to be a tough matchup for Cedric, especially down a game. He's going to have to win through a lot of cards that now are decent against his deck. Some of the losers have been boarded out.
Sidisi's Faithful, Encase of Ice, and Wall of Frost. That's a very good package against Atarka Red. And as you mentioned, Nick gets to cut certain cards like Frostwalker, maybe Hypnotic Siren, some of the low-impact cards that are easy for Cedric to kill. Those all get cut. And Nick gets to turtle up and use Thassa and Master of Waves to have a much more potent late game than Cedric.
Yeah, Hypnotic Siren, a card that went in a lot of these matchups, the Blue-Green Devotion deck has to be pretty aggressive. It's not a great one-drop, but at least it can attack. In this matchup, because Nick actually can be the control deck, he has a much more functional one-drop in Sidisi's Faithful.
Exactly. He can just sit behind his sea of walls. He has some removal spells in Encase of Ice, and with Thassa and Master of Waves, inevitability is on his side. It's just a matter of shoring up the early game. And Nick is much better equipped to do that games 2 and 3 than he was in game 1. In game 1, he was still pretty interactive early on. He forced some action from Cedric, got to play a Master of Waves, a second Master of Waves, and Cedric couldn't really recover. And instead of playing some crappy creatures that sort of just tie up Cedric's mana for removal spells, instead he gets to cast things like Encase of Ice, Wall of Frost, actual permanent sources of stability and removal.
Yeah, one thing I really like about Nick's new take on Blue-Green Devotion is his 4 collected company. And you think about a matchup like this where the card Master Waves is just so important. Having 4 collected companies in your sideboard in this 32 creature deck just seem like really will help him ensure that he hits Master Waves early and often.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really what he's got to go for. Now, with Cedric having 4 copies of Goblin Rabble Master on the list and Nick really not equipped to get it off the table, it is important for Nick to find Master of Waves sooner rather than later. It's not like it's good necessarily anytime it shows up in the game if Cedric has Goblin Rabble Master cranking out a bunch of tokens.
Yeah. Updates from the other side of our feature matches for the round. Chris Morris-Lent with Sultai Reanimator does take game 1 off of Steven Gerdner. Steven, our undefeated player from day 1 on mono green.
Setting up a potential really unorthodox matchup in the semifinals here of Blue Splash Green Devotion against Mono Green Aggro.
Yeah. Well, the mono green aggro deck's down in that game, but
that would be still live for that semifinal matchup.
Yeah, certainly not what you'd expect. I can't tell you that I've seen that matchup play out yet.
And I'm assuming these two are the lone representatives of their deck playing in the second day of competition. I'm guessing.
You would be correct. Both of them with just 1 copy. Game 2, Cedric will be on the play for this one. Nick was on the play for game 1 and had a great hand. He had that turn 2 Kiora's Follower, the potential for a turn 3 Master Waves that forced Cedric to wild slash down the Kiora's Follower. Then taking a turn off for himself, so it really just meant the Master Waves was more or less a turn 3 play.
Yeah, and Nick gets to cut a lot of those targetable creatures early on in the game and just replace them with things like Sidisi's Faithful, which blocks more effectively than some of these early drops and is much harder for Cedric to kill.
Well, for Cedric, he's on the mulligan here. Did not like his first showing. So what is the game plan then from Cedric? If Nick actually has all these walls that can come down early, you know, a lot of times when you're playing with a Atarka Red, you're looking for, you know, a really fast, strong start. But how much can he rely on that?
He's got to dump his stuff on the table, attack, and hope Master Wave shows up. If you try to play a long game against Blue Devotion strategies when you're playing red decks, you're often going to fail because they have Thassa, they have Master Waves, and you don't really have a response to either card once it shows up. So trying to play a slower, more removal-oriented game, I think, is a pretty poor choice. That's why I wouldn't even bring in Roast if I'm in Cedric's seat. I don't think you can waste your time with cards like that. You need to be as threat dense as possible and hope that you just fade Master Waves.
All right, we're underway. Cedric on the play. Turn 1 is a mountain, no 1-drop. So not a blisteringly fast start. And for Nick Peternell, here comes DC's Faithful. No exploit. It'll just be an 0-4.
This is how it starts.
It's like, oh boy. Mana Confluence in play for Cedric. But it is Eidolon of the Great Revel here. That's going to be a good source of damage, even in the face of a wall.
Yeah, I think Cedric's he's in the type matchup right now where if he takes 6 and Peternell takes 4, he's happy with that exchange because he's not going to win a long game. He's got to be super aggressive here.
Temple of Mystery, the play for Nick Peternell. No other spells. Passes back to Cedric. We're on turn 3. Eidolon will swing in. Yeah, Nick's not going to have any of that. He'll block. And Cedric will wild slash it down, taking 2 to do that. And that just kind of seems like part of the fight. Cedric has to get these blue mana symbols off the board. And he had to 2 himself and get rid of a card to do it.
Got to free up the Eidolon to attack as well.
We go back over to Nick. Cedric, no third land, no follow-up play there. What can Nick put onto the board?
It is an okay turn for Thassa because Cedric doesn't have a lot going on. It is a great turn for Wall of Frost.
Jeez, yeah, Wall of Frost so good here. He's going to play Thornwood Falls. By the way, Nick, on the full 12 blue-green duels, that means he does get 4 of the life gain lands.
Yeah.
And he'll play a card into Eidolon. That's going to be Stratus Dancer. Goes down to 19. Being aggressive on his own side, just wants blue mana symbols in play.
And just to make Cedric spend his time and mana and cards trading with Nick's board rather than developing his own.
Next turn is going to be the big one for Cedric, though. When Nick hits 4 mana, we're looking at Master of Waves. We're looking at Collected Company into Master of Waves. I mean, that 4-drop is just such a nightmare for Cedric. Eidolon will swing. Nick will attempt to trade. Cedric will have none of that. He'll go ahead and Atarka's Command, 3, and pump his team. So Cedric takes 2. Nick takes 3 and loses his creature. Let's go back over to Nick. And I mean, Cedric pushing the creatures off the board as best he can. Still down, actually, on damage.
And he's got to get Cedric here with the fingers crossed, asking for no Master Waves.
Nick has Master Waves, but isn't playing it because he also has Collective Company.
Yeah, I think what Nick wants to do is Collected Company, get some blue mana symbols in play, untap Master Waves, lock it up.
And his dangerous part, Cedric's going to swing the Eidolon, and he knows he's probably swinging into a trap. Here's Collected Company, yeah. Flick of the wrist, he knows.
Cedric can't stop attacking. I mean, he's got to hope that maybe Nick's floating out a little bit or sitting on some reactive stuff.
Shore Crasher Elemental and Wall of Frost. So you said he was going to collect a company into some blue mana symbols. How about 5 of them?
Oh, my goodness.
Cedric says, hold on, I have something before blocks. And that's just the one reason I generally am hard on this card. I really like Collected Company in a 32 creature deck. When you're reliably getting more than 4 mana worth of cards for it, it's very powerful. And this is just, jeez. She says, yeah, you can block.
Cedric, he had a great run, but sometimes you just run to a matchup that's not so good here.
All right, yeah, puts the Eidolon over to the side. There's going to put some point to Lightning Strike at the Shore Crash, at the Elemental. Okay, so he gets 3 of the blue mana symbols off the board, but his Eidolon's tapped. Cedric took 2 to do that. He's at 12. And so Hypnotic Siren, all right, takes 2. Master of Waves for 4 elementals. That one you're not even going to take 2 off of. Costs 4. And yeah, here's 10 power worth of creatures.
This is a best of SCGLive candidate, but not for the reasons why we normally send these kind of things to the archive.
Updates from the bracket. Daniel Longoria and Obs on aggro takes game 1 over Tyler Stewart. And there you have it. The match goes 2-0 to Nick Peternell. So for our Blue Devotion player, he's on to the semis in style. For Cedric Phillips, the undefeated run comes to an end, and it comes crashing to an end.
I think Cedric knew he had to get game 1 to get a shot. He got beat up pretty bad there. Game 1, Nick got one of his solid draws. He was able to get the Master of Waves pretty quickly at a high life total.